there's some good news. We all love a bit of good news. You got a mobile phone and it's got a little logo on it for the particular company that you're with, the network, and you're wondering, will it work with other networks? And you try it and it doesn't. Well, that is all set to change. Matt Porter, the gadget guru, back on this show with us from Matt Porter Web Design. Matt, good morning to you.
Good morning.
So basically, legislation that prevents this thing happening anymore.
Do you know, it's always nice to know that these the organisations that are set up to look after us actually do look after us sometimes.
Yeah.
And in this case, it's great news, really, because I'm sure lots and lots of people have had the same issue where they bought a phone directly from one of the phone networks, and like you say, they've come to time to sell it on or to get a new handset and go to a new provider or whatever they're deciding to do, and they find that it is locked to the provider, and that's very irritating.
Yeah.
And it requires generally a charge to have the phone unlocked again. It all seems a bit pointless. I always felt that it seemed a little bit pointless. But I used to have conversations with the providers and ask them why they did it, and they said it was to ensure that they provided the best possible service on their network and all of that old sort of thing.
All that old twat. It's to ensure they get their money's worth, isn't it? To get their money back.
Well, they're trying to. It felt like they were trying to perhaps trap you in to keep using their services. It meant that you had to make contact with them, and maybe people felt embarrassed and uncomfortable doing that by saying, we want to go, and having the big hard sell.
Yeah.
But Ofcom have now announced that now mobile phone companies are banned from selling locked handsets. So from now on, December 2021, sorry.
Right.
Yeah, still a bit of time.
Yeah.
New rules, blimey. Yeah, great. Yeah, December 2021, these new rules will come in, which mean that you can't have a locked handset. I would hope that the mobile networks would start implementing these things beforehand anyway.
Yeah.
Because I have to be honest, when I've bought handsets in the past, I've gone to independent places, which aren't locked to a network, so that I didn't have this situation where I couldn't take my handset elsewhere. I've got a handset actually my daughter was using yesterday, and she switched it on and it had a mobile phone provider logo come up on it, but it was unlocked.
It was unlocked,
but it still has that advert for the provider every time you switch it on.
Now, given that they tend to do this, they say they do, whatever they tend to say, we know why they do it, so that you stick with them and you have to use them. Will they now say, oh, well, in that case, the phones are going to be more expensive. The contracts will have to go up. Is that likely?
It's difficult to say, really, isn't it? Because I don't know whether that's built into their pricing. It may well be. There's surely a cost. There's a cost to having operator firmware. When you have a phone from one of these operators, a lot of the time it has specific firmware. So the operating system or the underlying operating system has been designed specifically for that provider.
Right.
So by having effectively unlocked phones without this specific code on it, maybe there is a less of a cost on there. There are other providers that have particular colours only for that provider and all of those kind of things. So there's lots of reasons to perhaps stay with these providers if you want a phone in a particular colour or something.
Andrew's contacted us. He lives in Canada, and he says this rule has come in a couple of years ago there, and as far as he can tell, as far as he's aware, prices haven't gone up and all their phones are now unlocked.
Yeah, North America's an interesting market as well, because they had different technologies for different providers. So that if you use someone like Verizon or something, or one of those providers, the technology for making the phone call and the data and everything was all different. So there was this kind of, it was quite a complicated setup, which I believe is being sort of solved as 4G and 5G have rolled out and it's all become a standard. But you did used to have that in the UK, where you had Orange and T-Mobile use different frequencies to Vodafone and I can't remember this What's wrong with me?
Yeah, it has been a little bit of a mishmash so far, hasn't it? The whole mobile phone industry has been a bit complicated. What would your advice, Matt, be to someone who's got this great phone, and we're creatures of habit, we want to stick with the phone, it is locked to a provider that you no longer want to use. What can you do?
What, to get it unlocked, you mean?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, well, the first port of call is the provider themselves, because they will be able to do it the most efficient way.
Right.
So the old provider, contact them. You can go elsewhere. You can do it online. There are lots of ways of doing these things, and it is a standard procedure, really, and doesn't necessarily warrant the £10 or whatever cost that people are charging for it. But
and it's not illegal,
there are
is
several
it?
ways of doing it.
It's not illegal to do it.
No, it's not illegal to do it. No, I think there was one country where it was. I think the US, where it was actually built into law that you couldn't unlock phones. It's ridiculous. But I think that's changed. But I would go to the provider as the first port of call, because they're going to do it properly. If you go to somewhere on a market or somewhere like that, you never know what might happen to your phone.
Yeah.
I think that people should be very aware as well when they're buying phones, that when you buy a phone on contract, you get easily, I suppose it's your eyes. Your eyes are greedier than your wallet sometimes when you buy these things, and you think, I want the latest phone, and this is spectacular and does all these amazing things, and it's beautiful and everything. And just bear in mind that sometimes you could have a SIM-free, SIM-only contract with a provider and buy that phone on a credit card or something, on interest-free or something like that, and you might find that you're paying significantly less over the course of the contract than you would be if you bought it all in one. So, there's all those kind of things to bear in mind, that these things can be extremely expensive over the course of, 18 months, 2 years.
The course of a contract, and it's interesting, and as you say, you've already alluded to this, but it is kind of reassuring that folk seem to be on our side here, because we've had the mobile roaming charges, which are another thing that they had to, be dealt with, and now this. So it is kind of reassuring that Ofcom, in this case, are actually batting for us.
They are as well with regard to switching broadband providers, that they're also bringing in ruling over making it easier to switch between different types of broadband. So if you were switching on the open reach network, so Sky, BT, those companies, then switching was very easy. But if you wanted to switch onto a non-open reach network, such as Virgin or a fibre network, then you would have to do that yourself. You'd have to do the arrangement between the two networks yourself. That's being changed as well to make that easier, so that people aren't going to have to be getting embroiled in that. It will be done automatically, so that's good.
And just so people are aware, if you buy a phone that is unlocked, any SIM from any provider, well, not any SIM, because I know there are the different sizes and that, you might have to overcome that, but any technology will work in that phone. Any provider's network should work in that phone in this country.
They should, yeah. If you're buying the phone in this country, then you shouldn't have any issues. You maybe if you're starting to have imports, if you import from abroad, from China or something like that, then you would have to be absolutely sure that would be the case. But yes, any phone bought in the UK is standardised with regard to, it would work. No problem at all.
John in Southwell's been in touch. He says, at the end of the contract, they should automatically, and some of them do, automatically unlock the phone. They are supposed to do it for free for the owner, but a new owner has to pay. So there you go.
What they should do as well, and I'm not sure if it's the case yet, is that I think, to be fair, if you've bought a phone on a very expensive contract and you come to the end of that contract, in all intents and purposes, that phone is paid for. So your phone provider, that network, should be contacting you and saying, do you know what? You no longer need to pay £100 a month for this contract. Yeah. You can have it for £15 a month or £8. I've got a phone contract, it's £8 a month, because that's SIM only. And that gives me a decent amount of data, unlimited unlimited calls, unlimited texts. It's a really very, very cheap way to have a phone.
And you got to look about for these deals. It's like everything else.
You have. You got to contact them, and they'll switch them over. But people should be aware of that. Don't just pay that enormous amount of money forever because you don't need to.
Matt Porter, the Gadget Guru, we'll be back to you reasonably shortly, Matt, with gadgets for Christmas. So be making a mental note of some of the stuff we might like.
Okay, I'll find my Bluetooth-enabled Christmas tree.
Absolutely, yeah. Matt Porter from Matt Porter Web Designs. Keep safe, Matthew.
Cheers, thank you.